Got rid of the ticking sound. I'm gonna show you how I did it.
There is no
welcome back. Welcome back to the M-Cube Network. My name is WilHemi, the man with the bunch of Hemis. Anyway, I am currently sitting here in my Chrysler 300 SRT8, a beloved vehicle of mine. I'm getting ready to go home. This vehicle has been through some stuff over the past month that I've kept close to the vest. I haven't made a video about it. I haven't told anybody. But as you know, this is a 2012 car. Got 102,000 miles on it. It's got approximately 12,000 miles on this 392 Hemi that you hear rumbling underneath my right foot. If you can hear it, I mean, I don't know if you can hear it or not. But anyway, this car, I love it to death. It's been through a share of stuff. I got a whole playlist called Fight Your Chrysler. Kind of take you through some of the stuff I've been through with this thing. It is a wonderful car, big, fat, heavy sedan, plenty of room. I can spread out like nobody's business. Love it, right? But it has not been that good to me. Motor, I mean, okay, don't get me wrong. Car never left me stranded. Okay, I've never been on the side of the road, like, come get this thing. It's never seen a tow truck. It's never been back to the dealership. I had my boys out of Staga change the motor out for me, but it was driven in there. Well, it was driven onto their trailer, but, you know, they drove it in. It was still drivable. Everything was cool. Just started getting it good. You know, had a little issue with the wire harness going to the PCM. One of the tabs was not making good contact and giving me a bullshit O2 sensor code right when I'm trying to get it small, so I had to deal with that. My man JJ over there, JJ's Auto, took care of it, figured it out, cleaned it up. Everything's been, you know, Gucci since then. I had some issues with the fan not coming on, also electrical. The relay for the fans, high-speed fans, was making loose contact. Went in there, handled that. See, I had a radiator explode on me at one point. Well, the radiator didn't explode. The fan exploded and took out the radiator with it. Yeah, but every time I made it to my destination safely, so I really can't complain too much, right? Had a fuel pump. Damn, did the fuel pump go all the way out? I can't even remember, but I changed the fuel pump, but I think I did that because it was I was chasing down some other problems, so I ended up changing the fuel pump. But anyway, nevertheless, back to the topic at hand. Over the past month or so, upon startup, I noticed some tapping coming from the engine bay. Brand new 392 crate motor from High Horse Performance. No miles on it, no MDS. Got the updated lifters. I'm good. That ain't the problem. It ain't the problem. But yeah, it sounded exactly like a rod when you first start up the car. That was the thing. It only sounded like that when you first started it up. And occasionally at the end of the drive, I would hear a tapping coming from the engine bay. Sounded like, I mean, it wasn't, okay, lifters, when they're knocking, you got one lifter knocking, it's not gonna be every revolution. It's gonna be a sort of at idle, it'll be a tack, 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 tack. And sometimes the rhythm will be off because generally the little wheel will still move a little bit and it won't tap every time it's hit. So lifter tapping, I know, familiar with that sound, right? Rod knocking is changes with engine RPM, you know, gets louder and it's more often, right? I was hearing this tapping on startup. Now cold start, no noise, no sound, just the engine. And then as the idle drop, you'd hear this, I mean, constant with every single revolution, right? And it was constant. So, right around the same time, as I noticed this noise, my power steering started to get stiff and started to get weird. And then also I went and checked it and all my fluid had leaked out, pretty much. It was still some in there, you know, enough to make it work regularly, but it was getting weird, making noise, stuff like that, right? You're hearing the whine. So I quickly went out, changed the power steering pump, because that's got to be the origin of the noise, correct? Correct. Well, wrong. Changed that out. It was gravy. Steering was still kind of stiff, but I did have a major leak under the car. Got everywhere. It made me think it was an oil leak, but it's not. It was just power steering fluid all over the bottom of the car. I mean, when you get a power steering leak somewhere below the pump or the rack itself, that fluid will get all under the engine and make you think that you need to do an oil pan again. It make you think you got rear main, make you think all kind of stuff. It's bad news. But just make sure it's not a power steering leak, because that's what mine was. But anyway, took care of the power steering. Still had that same exact noise. I mean, constant. But it only lasted, like I said, for a few minutes, and then it kind of went away. No change in drivability whatsoever, except for the fact that ever since I got the motor back, once I got the motor put in, I had noticed that the idle was kind of shaky. I got a little vibration in the engine. It felt like the engine, but it wasn't the engine, but it felt like it. Because like if I had something like a phone sitting on a charger that was kind of loose, you can see the phone wiggling. And I'm like, that ain't right. These motor mounts on this car are so smooth and they're liquid filled motor mounts. They really do the job, right? So I knew I had some kind of problem, but I never got a misfire or anything like that. I mean, the car pulls with all the power it should have. Never, ever been a problem on that level. So I put that to the side. But anyway, I got this tapping, this tap, 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 tap. So one day I get out and I get up under the car. I said, I gotta hear this. There's no way I can have a rod or a freaking lifter going out or anything wrong with this motor, right? So I get under the car, and knowing what I know about the good Lord and how he created us and how he made our ears is the reason we have two ears, right? Because you can judge where a sound is coming from based on the delay that the sound enters your different ears. Like a sound coming from your right side will hit this ear before it hits this ear. And just that little tiny minuscule difference in delay, all right, and the time it takes for the sound to reach the other ear, it kind of, your brain processes that and can pinpoint where the sound is coming from. Amazing stuff. Good Lord, is great. What's happening? Uh-oh, how Cho going after that Camaro that just went by. Anyway, like I was saying, so anyway, got down under the car, put my ears, I got right up under the car. I'm gonna hear where this noise is coming from. Make sure it was cold start, cold morning, you know what I mean? Started up, hear the noise clearly on the bottom of the car. Now I couldn't hear it from the top. You open the hood, put your head right by the banks, either bank, you hear nothing. Under the car is where it's coming from, and when I stand next to the car, it's coming from, almost seems like it's coming from behind the axle, the front axle. So when I got up under there, laid my head right under the engine, and the sound's telling me it's coming from further back. So I moved myself a little bit more, right to the bell housing. The sound is coming right above my face. Move back a little bit more into the transmission, and it's still coming from the bell housing area. So we pinpointed the noise coming from the bell housing. Now, what in the hell makes noise in the bell housing? Okay, as the engine spins, as the engine's idle, right? The flex plate turns. The flex plate is connected to the torque converter, fixed, connected to the torque converter. The torque converter actually spins on a bearing, and the output, the shaft that it sits on is coming out of the transmission, basically. Now, at idle, the what do you call it? Torque converter is spinning, but the inside of the torque converter is standing still. The part of the torque converter that's connected to the transmission is not moving at all. But the part of the inside of the torque converter is spinning until you get enough speed up into where it actually starts to connect and move the other side of the torque converter, then you go. So the transmission is not doing anything when you're sitting still. Even though the engine's running, even though the pump's running and pushing fluid around in there, the transmission itself is not doing anything. So it's not my transmission that's making the noise. It's not the motor that's making the noise. Unless there's a rod or a main bearing that's bad and it's transmitting the noise through the crank only to the back, which is not feasible. So I kind of ruled out the engine, ruled out the transmission. So it's got to be something in the middle. Okay, maybe my torque converter is going bad. So I do the research, right? Mr. Google, what? Talk to me. When the torque converter goes bad, you don't get tapping noises. You get slipping. That's the main thing. Now, when the fluid pump inside the transmission, the front of the torque converter, whatever it is, when that goes bad, you get a whine like the power steering, because it's basically the same fluid, same situation, same basic principle of motion and you know, whatever, right? So it's not whining, it's not you know, slipping. Transmissions not slipping, it's performing beautifully. So how can the flex plate make noise? The flex plate is fixed, it's screwed onto the crank and screwed onto the torque converter. Well, Google to the rescue again. When your flex plate gets old, it can crack. It can, also, I take it back. Don't forget I said crack. When your flex plate gets old, or you had some work done or something like that, sometimes the screws can back out of the flex plate. There's like 6 screws on my flex plate. It's there's 3 spokes, 2 screws each spoke that connects to the torque converter. One of those screws backs out into the bell housing, and it can tap stuff and kind of make that sound like tat, 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 right? Depending on how fast the engine's spinning. So I'm thinking, okay, one of the screws pulled out. So I take the car to the shop, and I'm not really familiar with opening up that little door on the bottom of the bell housing on the Nag 1. I didn't know about it. So I took it to the shop. I asked them, go, can you look in there and see what's going on? They looked in there, none of the screws are backed out. Everything looks good. So I'm like, what the hell? What's making this dumb, stupid noise? And the noise increases with RPM, but then it drowns out and you don't hear it anymore. It almost like it stops with RPM, and it stops when the engine warms up. Well, do some more research. Come to find out, hairline cracks can develop on the flex plate near the mating surface where it mates to the crank, and it's like 6 or 7, 8 screws that screw it to the crank. And right there, it's like you got the main hole that it goes over, the main output shaft on the engine, the crank, where it kind of sits in the center, and then there's 6 screws around the outer edge. And cracks, hairline cracks, tend to develop around that area. I've seen videos that I've looked up to see what the hell happens when a flex plate goes bad, and sometimes it totally disconnects, and then your flex plate's just moving around, but then you have starting issues, you have an ungodly racket. I didn't have an ungodly racket, I had no starting issues, so I'm figuring the flex plate is still solid. Couldn't see any cracks looking through that little hole at the bottom of the Nag 1 bell housing, right? But at this point, I got nothing else. I got nowhere else to go. So I commission it, send it to the shop, pull the transmission. I bought a flex plate from, I forget where, but I'll show you. It's right here. I bought a flex plate, new one, brand new, out the box. Took it to the shop, told them to put it in. Now, also in my travels, I've read that whenever you put in a new motor, a new transmission, put in a new flex plate. This is from a hot rodder. This is from a serious builder. Always put in a new flex plate because they fatigue. Flex plates fatigue. And they will fatigue differently with a different engine, different transmission, different harmonic, whatever. You will overstress the flex plate when you change engines, change transmissions, put it back in. You will overstress it, and it will develop cracks, and it will make that exact sound, that tick, 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 sound like a rod knocking. It will make that sound when there's a crack in the flex plate. Now, what I'm thinking is when the flex plate is ice cold, you know, cold start, it's not as big, it's not as tight, and that crack may open up just a little bit, enough to make noise. And then as the engine crank gets hot, it'll transmit some of that heat to the flex plate. And as the transmission gets hot, some of that heat somehow may come through the input shaft and also warm up that flex plate. And then after a while, the flex plate may swell a little bit and seal up the gap, seal up the crack, and the noise stops. That's what I'm assuming. I don't know for sure, but all I know is when a flex plate develops a hairline crack, you get noise. You get a tapping sound, which sounds like a lifter and will scare the crap out of you when you just drop 10 racks on a motor and then you think you might have to do it again. But anyway, we put the new flex plate in like butter. Right now I'm driving on a brand new flex plate. The car is, remember how I was saying how I had a little vibration in the car at idle with the old flex plate? Now flex plates are weighted because some of the harmonic balance of the engine can be done, harmonic balancing of the engine can be done with the flex plate since it's attached to the rotating assembly. I don't know if my old flex plate lost the weight, but it feels like it had no weight on it. This one has a new weight on it. Now I gotta go back and get it. I forgot to get it, get the old flex plate so I can look at it, show you some pictures. But the old flex plate, I had vibration. I got no vibration now. This car feels like a brand new car. Feels like $10 million. I am loving life right now. I finally got to a point where everything is perfect. It seems like I haven't had 1 minute. When I fix something else would be on my mind. And you know how it is when you got a car you love and you know how to work on it. You feel everything, you hear everything. And when you know you got something wrong, it weighs on your soul. You can't enjoy the car. I am enjoying this car right now and I love it. Another thing, like I was saying, I had the big fluid leak. I changed the power steering pump. Easy to get, easy to change. 3 screws, you're in and out of there. A couple of hoses, boom. I had no idea it was so easy. On this car though, it's got the old-fashioned rack. It didn't have that electric servo crap. This one got an actual pump and a rack. So this car easy. All the new ones, yawn. But anyway, change that out, and no more fluid leaking. But my steering was still hard and it was still binding up a little bit, like at full lock. I could feel like it didn't want to go all the way, like it was getting hard. And anyway, I had driven this car for roughly 50,000 miles. And the steering was always kind of hard. I always thought, damn, you know, it's Chrysler. I know it's SRT, but the steering always felt really heavy. Well, put the new rack in, made sure I got an SRT rack from Mopar. I didn't get a 300C, a 300 SXT. I didn't get that. I got the 300 SRT rack because I know the steering is a little bit different from SRT to the regular versions. And it is so much nicer now. It's not even funny. I mean, I can almost use my pinky and park this bastard, but it's not that loose, but it's so much different, and it's like, oh my God, something's wrong. It just don't feel right, because that tightness creeps up on you over the years, and you'll not notice it until you get a brand new rack in your car, and you'll find out how it's really supposed to feel. Now at speed, it's tighter. It tightens up a little bit. It's not like, you know, normal, like when you're going slow. But when you're going slow, you're parking, it's so much easier now. I mean, I love it to death. It's beautiful. But anyway, that's all. I just want to let you know, if you have that problem, if you have a slight tapping sound coming from an engine you know is in good shape, check that flex plate, especially if it's old. But anyway, that's all for now. Hey, just have to pardon me. I'm just loving this car right now. I'm really, really loving it. Yeah, that's all there is to it. Check the stuff, stay up on the stuff, then become a better mechanic.